might going quickly. Um, there are key performance indicators that we try to explain in that class. In our previous class, rather, we talked about the uh, cost, the capital expenditures or cost of state provision, some factors that some costs that are attached to facility management. All right. Okay. Now we have also operator. We have four basic. There are basically four forms of expenditures that um, can be connected and can be or that is that consists or consisted in that is consisted in facility management. All right. For the expenditures that are consisted in facility management, we talk about the cost expenditure or cost of space provision. Then we have the operating expenditure that's talking about space and infrastructure the rest of the thing or all that has got to do with it. Then we also talk about the operating cost consumption or the operating expenditure that's talking about consumption. That's the other operating expenditure. Then we have the one for people and organization. All right. Now, like if you get to look at from what you can see on this screen, I'm just going to use this screen to illustrate a lot of things and go back to what we talked about and I hope I'm able to hit some other points for today's class. All right. So when you look at the expenditures with respect to cost of space and provision or cost of space provisions rather, now, you look at interest rate. You look at you're talking about for instance rent or living rate. Some facilities are not on the are not on the land or are not owned by the organization. Some organizations where they operate is not they don't have the full ownership. Some have the rent, some have to make use of the leasing or mortgage opportunities that there are in the industry to get their facilities. So this also comes under some of the expenditures KPI. Remember what I said about KPI, key performance indicators. All right. So we're looking at what now? The rent, the cost of the area. Now we also look at the leasing rate. Sometimes it might not be the rent, it might just be leasing. Some of them usually don't have interest on them, or some facilities depreciate over time. You understand? These are costs. So they depreciate over time. It's not the same way they have been that they will still be. Now, it's not only in terms of building or um, office space that we're talking about here. You understand? Well, it could also be in terms of equipment. It could also be in terms of either if there is a combination of equipment. It could be sometimes you have in the oil and gas industry, you have some like a processing station now, for instance. Um, there are some organizations, there's what we call joint venture in oil and gas industry. When you talk about joint venture, we're talking about different organizations coming together to have a common agreement or a common operation. All right. So what does this mean? Maybe your main energy company limited um, and uh, GPTS, GPTS uh, oil company and uh, engineering group of companies, three different organizations and one other, maybe another company, they decide to come together. Each of these companies have their oil wells, for instance. But Mobil Producing Nigeria, that's MPN, Mobil, is a company that is licensed in terms of selling, laying out of selling of their product or food. They have the license for some kind of operations which the rest of us may not really have. Now, so we can have a joint venture and then we can form it together as a joint venture and then lease the facility of both for it. Start using that. So maintenance and all the rest costs that will come in terms of the facility management, the maintenance costs and some other stuff will be charged by mobile for such operations along with the leasing cost. You understand? So there will be an MOU. Now such operations that's the part of operations for space and provision space provision. All right. Now we also have taxes and insurance. Now when we talk about space infrastructure, we have the workplace, just the same way I've explained. We also be for workplace, for training, for opening grounds, some of the open ground kind of infrastructure, and you have to operate with it. That's then we also look at sustainability of waste management. All these expenditures that has to be that comes into play when we're talking about the facility management expenditure KPI, key performance indicators. All right. Then some other things that are consumption. There's no way you'll be operating a facility that you might not be having some things that you consume, some 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 provisions that you need to consume. An example is water. Another one is heating. In some organizations they have to carry out heating and all that. They have to be to get a heater or um, maybe gas, a heating source, a constant heating source because of the kind of operation they are engaged in. You understand that? Now another is what electricity. Yes, power. Power. In fact, in Nigeria, most of the complaints that you have um, companies or organizations complaining about is of power because we don't have a steady because of the epileptic power, the epileptic nature of power provision in Nigeria. It's covered that a lot of companies have to run on their own generators, just like many of us in our houses. In the Western world, nobody we don't care to start buying generators, you want to make noise, you want to create noise in the environment, who will permit you? You understand? But here in Nigeria, these are part of the predicament that we have. And so power, very important. In fact, in the industry, this area, in Nigeria, our third world countries, especially here in Nigeria, as a case study, electricity and power is a major factor. A major factor. All right. Then operating expenditures that has to do with people and organization. People and organization. We also have the information center, reception, and help desk, that's the front desk, the ICT, the catering, logistics, and fleet management. Then, then HSSE, that's health, safety, security, and environment. These are personnel that are involved in that. And other services too. Other services that we can mention. A lot of the finance department or what have you, the okay, we mentioned logistics already, control logistics. So all these areas are some other expenditures that are involved. Please take note of these assignments and changing system shortly. So please you can take a screenshot of the assignments and the next area that we'll be touching. I'm giving you some of it before, but some people had not been thoroughly um, answered come to it shortly because of this talk. Alright, so you are sending your assignment to engineeringma.gpts at gmail.com using the subject OGM 405 assignment 2. I think this is 2 or 3. Then name of the center, your center, and the state. Then you are also going to answer. Make it more of what you need to read up in case our next class because we'll be treating all this area something the next month. But most importantly, adding to that, let me say that this page is for you to explain the okay, discuss extensively on FM, that's facility management expenditure KPM, right? Discuss extensively on facility management expenditure KPM. Please ensure you take note of these assignments and take them very seriously. Take note of these assignments and take them very seriously, please. Alright? So take it a snapshot of it, then I'll just talk about them um, briefly. Okay. Alright. When we come to now, um, in one of our classes, we talked about um, let me see, okay, yes, we're talking about the fire safety as regards facility management. All right, and I remember I said that there are a couple of incidences that that can result in issues that can result in fire in an organization or in the oil and gas industry. A major one is what we call loss of what containment or what for bleed. Now, let me explain gradually first of all. Um, so, not loss of containment, boiling liquid, evaporating vapor, explosion. I'll come to that shortly, but let me explain. Now, in the industry, we usually have, please pay attention and grasp attention to what I'm going to say. In the industry, we usually have um, um, the while I'm talking, let me just put the question so that people can get some messages and they will not be able to get the screenshot of it. All right. So in the industry, um, we usually, especially in the oil and gas industry, we discover that during transportation or during in the processing of oil and gas, we, we carry out transportation or we carry out temporary storage or long-term storage and the rest. Movement of um, movement of products generally, right? So as a result of the continuous use, there is the likelihood of not having some shortfall or shortcoming some areas that could make us lose the hold of the of what we transport. I mean, there could be this kind of loss of containment is to be described as leakage or sometimes in some other cases rupture or in some other cases where we now have a heat source. You know, if you don't face to before, there are three things that are needed for fire to occur. Once you have a heat source, you have the foil, and you have oxygen, fire, so they are called the three elements of fire, so fire triangle. Alright, now those elements, once we are present, we have the foil, which is the hydrocarbon where we are dealing with either transporting or processing or moving one way or the other. And we also have the storage. You understand? We could also be storing them in tanks or in early vessels or in the boxes and the rest of it. Now, if they happen to be for any reason that these uh, vessels lose, there's an unwanted allowance of flow. What is contained in the fluid is allowed to to flow out or is made to flow out in very little or through very minute orifice, less than between 5 to 10 or 20 mm. Now, such is considered as a leakage. All right. Now, consider that as a leakage, which is also a loss of containment. They are all loss of containment. Once whether the pipe, whether the fluid is coming out from a pipeline or coming out from a valve or a fitting or from maybe whether from a valve or from a fitting or could even be from what have you. It could even be from a tank, maybe as a result of poor maintenance and the rest of them. Then now and that orifice that is open is between 5 mm and 10 mm. Of the changing system, we'll have a what we have in that case is a leakage. Okay, okay. I believe we can all hear me clearly. You might not be able to see my screen now because I'm doing that from the phone now. I had to change the system quickly. So please, as I was saying, but please, I'll need you to pay attention. Um, very, very importantly. All right. Now, so when we have such loss of containment that is within that region of 5 ml, 5 mm is very small. As a millimeter. Um, that's the diameter of that leakage or of that orifice is within that range of 5 to 15 mm, then what we have in such a case up to 20 mm is still considered as a leakage. All right, but the moment you have this rising to the point of about maybe you're having from 50 mm orifice and above, then that is a rupture. In such a case, we don't describe it as a leakage again. We describe it as what? A rupture. So a rupture is when you have a loss of containment from a vessel containing either a hydrocarbon that is within or that is above 50 millimeter um, orifice diameter. All right, that's the opening. When you measure the width or the space of the opening, it is above 50 mm. Then that's already 50 mm and above is already a rupture. Now, loss of containment is very dangerous to the whole system in the oil and gas industry. Number one, it poses a lot of threats that that is through the exposure of the flame of the hydrocarbon to the atmosphere. Now we have oxygen present, and any heat source, even just a little spark, can cause ignition. Some of us were some of us must have been familiar with some cases that we've heard of before or seen, maybe in the industry. You hear of some filling stations where they are trying to um, discharge for. You hear that the whole place caught fire. You know, now that is as a result of loss of containment. Even the gas, even in the in process of discharging or movement of hydrocarbons in the industry, gas alone is as dangerous as anything else. It's even the most dangerous because it can easily escape. So we must ensure tight fitting at every time and ensure that all facilities that are being used are continuously maintained. You have a maintenance plan for this facility. Having a maintenance plan is part of facility management. You cannot run a facility without having a maintenance plan. You understand? So due to poor maintenance, you can have loss of containment, and loss of containment can then result in incidents that can destroy the whole industry or the whole facility. You understand? Just a little can destroy the whole facility. So you must have safety measures also in place for fire prevention, and for also um, reaction. That's for fighting. You understand? If it's for fire, for instance, we talk about fire prevention and firefighting. So you have those measures in place. All right. So another kind of um occurrence we also have in the industry is what we call BLEVE, boiling liquid evaporating vapor explosion. I'm already giving some people exposed to the assignment, but you're going to still write on it. I want you to do more research and more read up on or more studies on these areas. All right. So the boiling liquid and evaporating vapor explosion. Now, what happens in this case is where you have heat heat source or fire source being exposed, or sorry, a hydrocarbon, that's crude oil or gases or fuels or petroleum products contained in a vessel, and is caused to experience heating. That's fire. Now, once that happens and such um, substance or hydrocarbon starts to get to its boiling point and its ignition point, fire definitely will occur. All right. Your ignition point or flash point of any substance is the point at which the 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 the, the atmospheric pressure equates the vapor pressure. Now, that might sound a little strange to some of you, but what I'm trying to say is that at that point where it ignites, it affects the temperature at which a substance will self-ignite or can ignite when given some heat. So when you increase the temperature of the hydrocarbon, when the hydrocarbon is exposed to heat source and it gets to a point, the temperature where it can ignite, what will happen is that it will begin to burn. And the nature of a combustion of hydrocarbons is usually very explosive. Many of us must be familiar with gas explosions or fuel tankers explosion and the rest of it. It's usually very explosive. Why? Because they combust very fast. they combust very fast. However, the combustion nature varies depending on the molecular weight of these fractions or components of crude oil. What am I trying to say? Gas will burn, the kind of flame you will get from gas is not the same you will get from diesel diesel, that's AGO. When AGO burns, gas will experience complete combustion, but AGO will not experience complete combustion. So you will see it having more sooty flame than when you have gas burning. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. So boiling liquid evaporating vapor explosion is as a result of such large quantity of hydrocarbon experiencing that. We've seen that happen in some companies before, or some depots. Yeah, that's a constant, a familiar occurrence in some depots where they are unable to either carry out proper maintenance, or where they jeopardize safety. You understand? So these are factors that could lead to such explosions. All right. Now, so it is important that we ensure to prevent these losses that could come from from this kind of these are just few that I've mentioned, some of the losses that could come in that could be experienced in facility maintenance or facility management. Then, as a facility manager or as a tank storage, let's talking about storage now, which is a common part and a very important part in the oil and gas industry, because this our facility management is channeled is under we are considering facility management under oil and gas. You understand? You can have facility management in various other areas, but under oil and gas, one of the major areas of concern in terms of facility is our storage facilities. So that explains why our focus is a little channel towards storage in this case. Our storage facilities also have our processing facilities. We also have our um, transporting transportation facilities. They are all intertwined or connected in one way or the other. So um, you must one ensure that every safety measures are respected or complied with. The safety measures, for instance, when installing the facilities, there must be a provision for for hydrant lines that will be functional. Hydrant lines that should be functional. So hydrant lines are lines where you they are like pipelines too, or some little pipes. They are usually painted in red. When you go to some facilities, or even some companies that are
Engineer
not,
Ma,
yeah, my time. Okay, I'm rounding
yes,
off.
time.
I'm rounding off. So you must ensure both now total compliance to safety regulations. Then number two, you must ensure that you have what now a maintenance routine or a maintenance schedule for every component of the facility. A maintenance schedule for every component of the facility, and there must be compliance also. Compliance is most important. Is very important. Compliance too. Now, there should also be competent maintenance team for area of discipline with respect to the facility. What do I mean? For the electrical aspect, there should be competent personnel, electricians that are trained and understand the connections in the organization or in the facility. All right. Then for maybe the area that has to do with welding and the rest of, there should be competent. So it's not the person that does electrical maintenance that will go and carry out um, welding kind of maintenance, or carpentry kind of maintenance, or civil construction. So you don't have a square peg in a round hole. It is very important to take note of that. And a host of other measures that must be taken. So one of the questions, things I would like you to also go study is about the maintainer facility, the steps that must be taken in facility maintenance in the oil and gas industry. Facility maintenance in the oil and gas industry, especially for oil and gas facilities. Take a case study of a refinery. Some of you can take a case study of a flow station, and also another thing I would want you to do, read up although this is related to safety, but analyze it as a facility manager. Analyze it as a facility manager. It's not in your questions that I added, but I'm just adding that now. The the Piper Alpha case of 1988. Piper Alpha explosion. Piper Alpha is a is an operating station, refinery and process station, a very big one that um, had a fire case. Now, analyze it as the facility manager. What were the failure modes and what were the um, root causes and how that can be mitigated or managed properly. Thank you very much for your time. Um,